if we're looking at problems 8 through 13, it's asking us to find the angle's reference angle. We're going to do several things to do that. We're going to graph in standard position. And then the reference angle is the angle made with the x-axis. Again, as an example, let's say I had an angle that was somewhere over here in the second quadrant, and I had this angle over here that I called theta. We could say that this angle here is beta because it's the angle that's made from the terminal side to the x-axis. So beta is the reference angle of theta. So I'm going to say I've got an angle that's 130. So if I wanted to find, that's not one of your examples. Oh, hey, look, that is your example. Oh, well. I guess I'm doing problem number 9. I wasn't intending to, but I guess I am. So if it's 130 degrees, what the reference angle is just this angle in here. It's just the angle remaining, or the angle created from the given angle on the immediate x-axis. So there's several ways you can look at this. The way that I tend to look at this is that if I've got 130 degrees, I'm just trying to figure out, well, what could that be? Well, I know that's 180 degrees. Well, 180 minus 130 is equal to 50 degrees. So therefore, the reference angle is 50 degrees. You could also think about it, well, how many degrees do I need to add to 130 to get 180? You can say, well, that's also 50 degrees. So that's the reference angle. Notice it's the same equation, they're just switched around a bit. So I'm going to actually come up with one that's not on here, just so you can kind of see how this works. So let's say we had something in the, I'm just going to say the fourth quadrant. Let's say I had an angle over here. And I'm just going to say it's 280 degrees. I know that this is 270 at the third quadrantal angle. So I'm going to say that this is 280. So if I ask, well, what is the reference angle to 280 degrees? What I'm saying is if I take the terminal side of this angle, what is the angle made between that terminal side and the nearest x-axis, which is right here? Well, I know that this is 280. I know a full revolution is 360. So I can say, well, I can look at it that same way. How many more do I need to add to 280 to get 360? And I could say, oh, well, that's just going to be 80. Because I know that 280 plus 80 is 360. Or I could say, I could take 360 and say, well, I know I already have 280. Well, how much left to get to 360? Well, that's just going to be 360 minus 280 gives me what's left, and that's 80. So there isn't a particular one definition of a reference angle other than it's the angle that's closest to the x-axis given the terminal side of the angle. So Isaac, your question is, are you saying the reference angle is like the other side of the angle that is needed to be 180? It is if it's in the second quadrant. So you can add, if you're in the second quadrant over here, then yeah, you're going to figure out how much left to get to 180. If you're in the third quadrant here, you're going to say, how much more than 180 is it? So you could take the, so in this one, if you've got this angle, it's going to be theta minus 180. In this angle, it's going to be 180 minus theta. And for 360 degrees, if it's over here, it's going to be 360 minus theta. So I don't like to think of it, I don't want to have to memorize all these different formulas. So I just ask myself, what's the, how could I best find the angle between the terminal angle and the nearest x-axis?